Well, here to take us behind enemy lines is Brian Bailey from our affiliate in Greenville, North Carolina. Brian, I've got to ask, is there just like a buzz this week happening over in Greenville? Everyone just kind of getting ready for this game.
I think there's been a buzz most of the summer. I mean, I think that everybody's been thinking about it, talking about it. North Carolina State ranked 13th nationally. And, it's a very, very good, probably one of the best teams that Dave Doran's had, maybe the best team Dave Doran's had. So I think everybody at East Carolina understands that and knows that it's going to take quite an effort to stay in the game. But I think everybody's excited about it.
You mentioned kind of the summer excitement. I was listening. Your quarterback over at ECU has said he spent the summer watching NC State film. Of course, he was part of the team that played them in 2019, and I know that's not a game that most Pirates fans want to talk about in depth. But does he look at this game? Does Nailers look at this game at all? Like maybe a little bit of a revenge game for himself personally?
Well, I don't know if he'll take it personally. I asked him similar questions earlier today when we had the news conference there, but it's one of those things that I think that he understands. He's going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks in East Carolina history stats wise, but he wants to get one of those big, signature wins. And this would be that signature win. It's interesting when he went down to the Manning Academy, he roomed with Devin Leary. So they roomed together and they talked about, the game and the atmosphere at Dowdy Ficklin. And he said that Devin's a great guy and they got to be pretty good friends that week. But I think that's an interesting sidebar to the matchup, NC State and East Carolina.
I'd be very curious to know if they are texting each other this week, sending a little smack talk here and there.
I doubt that, though. Yeah.
Well, you look kind of at East Carolina's roster, at least on the offensive side of the ball. You've got your quarterback back. You've got your two top wide receivers from a year ago, your leading rusher from a year ago. So offensively, what is kind of the biggest question mark for ECU entering Saturday's matchup?
Well, I think, they've got some newcomers from the transfer portal at wide receiver, but everybody says, and I saw a couple of the scrimmages and they look pretty good. So I think that that's going to be an asset. The offensive line was a question mark, but they got some transfers in there as well. And really they think this is the best offensive line that Holt Nailers has had a chance to play behind. So they're really, happy with the offensive line and their running backs, the 1-2 punch, Keaton Mitchell, he can absolutely fly. If he gets loose, you're just not going to catch him. I don't care if you're NC State or who you are. He's just really, really good. Rajay Harris, he's lost a little bit of weight since last year. He's got a little burst to him. So the Pirates feel really good offensively, but they understand that State's got a great offense as well.
Yeah, absolutely they do. And I did see kind of earlier this week, Mike Houston was comparing Devin Leary to Desmond Ridder of Cincinnati last year. Obviously, he passed for over 300 yards in that game against ECU, but he did have a season high 2 interceptions. Y'all were able to get him twice. What was it about ECU's defense in that game that kind of disrupted him a little bit? And is there anything from that game that maybe we could see them kind of bring into Saturday's game?
Well, I think that they're going to really try to put some pressure on Devin Leary. They want to keep him off balance a little bit. They may not get a bunch of sacks, but they want to keep him off balance as best they can because they know if he gets into a groove that it's going to be a long afternoon, no matter what they do on offense. If they can't stop him at all, then they're in some trouble. So I think that that's one of the things you'll see. I think the Pirates do a good job of moving guys around, disguising coverages, disguising how many men they're going to bring with pressure and that kind of thing. So I think you'll see a lot of that. I talked to Blake Harrell, the defensive coordinator, earlier this week, and he kind of said it. We can't let those guys get into a rhythm, and if we do, it will be a long day.
No, absolutely. Now, if we are going into the fourth quarter, and I was to tell you that this is like a 1-score ball game, what would ECU have done to make it that way?
I think some of the things we talked about, I think, they would have frustrated Devin Leary a little bit if it's a 1-score game. I think the Pirates would have been able to run the football and control the clock a little bit to keep that offense off the field. And I think if we're in the fourth quarter, I think the Pirates really like their chances then because Dowdy Ficklin Stadium is going to be jumping anyway. And if you get, they've been hydrating for about 3 weeks now, most of the Pirate fans. And I'm not sure they're hydrating in a good way. But they'll certainly
we gotta mix
hydrating.
some water in, okay? If we want to make it to the fourth quarter, we got to mix some water in.
Yeah, they'll be hydrating in a big time way that morning.
No, absolutely. No, I think you're going to look at this game from an outside perspective, and it could almost have the feel, right, of like a big brother, little brother kind of game, especially, given ECU's record in the last couple of seasons. But it doesn't feel, at least kind of listening to the players and listening to Mike Houston, that they are approaching it that way at all.
No, I don't think so. I think when you look at the matchup, I think State leads the series 18-13 all time. State has lost rather 3 out of 4 that were played in Greenville all time. So, Dave Doran says, this State team hasn't had a lot of success in Greenville. I think he is a little concerned about that. And when you have a team, no matter how much talent you have, if you have all those expectations and then a little thing goes wrong here and there, and all of a sudden they start thinking about those expectations and, the home team gets on a roll. I mean, we could see just about anything on Saturday.
Hey, it's why we play the game. It's why we love college football. Brian, thank you so much for helping us get a glimpse of ECU.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.